Hey guys, welcome along to the BVI Pilots podcast. I'm here with Johnny as usual. Hey Johnny.
Hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, I hope you've all been having a nice 2 weeks, I think it was, since the last um, podcast. And as usual, some things have happened, some things have not happened. Um, we could spend hours going into the ins and outs of our fascinating community, but we're here to give you some of the latest news and some of the latest updates that we think you might be interested in.
Yep. And
Suppose,
maybe
hey,
2 weeks, guys, we might come back and have the developer back on with us. So just stay tuned for that. We'll see what happens.
absolutely, yeah. TFM. Okay, TFM's actually at the bottom of my list here, but we'll start with it since we're on it anyway. TFM coming along nicely. Yeah, we'll switch the format around. It's not a problem. The Jason and Andy working away on the code, and of course, if you go to bvipilots.net, I believe it's the bvipilots.net slash snapshot TFM
TFM,
snapshots, is it? I think.
I think it's TFM, and then like a hyphen or a dash snapshots, or just TFM snapshots, one or the other.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll see if I can find a link and put it in the description. But if you go there, you'll be able to see all the latest builds. And what you want to do is go straight down to the bottom, which is the latest build. Every new build is going to be up there. Now, as we said last time, remember these are test builds. Things are going to probably not work. That's expected. Things aren't added yet. You can't really do a full flight with this. You still need Tramp. But as you'll see, the avionics tab is coming along nice, and you'll be able to see how that's all laid out if you take a look at it, and you'll be
hmm
able to actually monitor your avionics as they change with that.
And it's coming along. There's what I really like about it is, and we talked about this when we had him on last time, about how people will have access to the open source, and they can look at it and all that, and that's exactly what's going on with the TFM snapshots. By the way, it is bvipilots.net slash TFM dash snapshots.
Okay, that's
Um,
great.
I've got it pulled up here in front of me, but that's exactly what they're allowing everybody to do. It's not something where you're getting tech support and all that, but it's more of, while they're doing it, Andy, he likes to know, hey, is that working okay? And if it's not, go here and at least let us know what is working right now and what isn't. It's not really a tech support thing. It's more of a just feedback, but go grab it and check it out. It's came a long ways. I think it's definitely came a long ways.
Oh yeah, it's very community driven. Sometimes they'll put out a build and say, on the Discord or WhatsApp, "Hey, is this what you were looking for?" And then people come back and give suggestions, and they're going to make changes. Of course, the GitHub is still the main place to, if you want to add an official suggestion or bug report, you can
I
do
don't
it
know
on there.
what is that. We'll have to find that link and put it in the description for you guys, because I don't know it by heart. Um,
Yeah, there was a bit of confusion because there was an old TFM GitHub for the old version, and there's one that is for the new one. We'll see if we can put that in the description so that people don't get
Yeah, because there's one just for
confused.
TFM and there's one for the TFM.net, and it's the
Yeah,
.net.
yeah.
If you do a Google search for it, guys, just look for the one that's the TFM.net. That's going to be the one that you want.
So the next thing on the list is BVI Virtual. It's been something that me and Johnny wanted to do for quite a while. Look at a virtual airline, and he actually had a template set up which I didn't realize, and created one. But we've done a bit of work, merged them together, got him into this
Oh
one
yeah.
now, and so if you want to join, I will put a link in the description. It's on fsairlines.net, and BVI Virtual is basically where we start out as an airline with nothing but a bit of cash, and we buy a few jets, a few planes, and we get you guys to fly around. You can do pretty much any flight you want, and we earn money and we expand our fleet. That's the very basics of it. There's so much you can do on there.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, yeah.
yeah,
And it treats it's like the real deal. You know, like if you do a flight and you land and you report it, and let's say your landing was you got a negative 1200, you pretty much destroyed that plane, by the way.
yeah,
Because
right.
I think they said a negative 1000 is a complete.
Right off probably. Junk the plane.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's minus 1000. So, and that is hitting hard. I mean, even, and Declan, even like when we do some of them, we get like a minus 400. To me, it's okay, but it could be much better. It's acceptable, but it could be much better. So imagine a negative 1000.
Oh yeah. And the thing I like about this is that the planes are unique. So each one has a sort of like a health score. If you go into it, you can see the individual parts of the aircraft. You can see its paint, all that kind of stuff. And each one has a score out of 100. And so as the planes are flown by pilots, depending on how the flights go, the planes are unique and will change, and we have to repair them. So it's not just like you're flying any old random plane. It is a BVI plane. And so if you do
Yeah.
have an incident, obviously, don't submit the flight. Just Alt F4 out of it so that we don't lose a hell of a lot of money. But it's FS Airlines is the client you're going to use to track your flights. And they will all be submitted to us. And like I say, we earn money, we can buy planes, and spread them out all over the world for newcomers to fly.
And the app, the FS Airlines is pretty accessible. It's pretty straightforward. There's a couple buttons on there, but if you hit them, it's not going to do anything bad to your with your flight or anything. You basically just start up that client. It's gonna know if you've already got a flight, right? Because
Yeah,
you
you
got to have a
book it on the
flight set
site.
up.
Yeah.
And so you start it up, you'll hit fly, you'll hit fuel up, and then you'll hit fly. If you're overloaded too much, you will not see that fly button the second time. So just keep that in mind, and then you'll have to make some adjustments. But
Yeah, in
join us
general, it's
and
very
have
simple.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You can take it on VATSIM. Our call sign is Vision on VATSIM, so that is allowed as well. And it's just something different to your regular domestic flights that you might do. And of course, it's quite a personal thing because we all know each other in the community. So it can be where you say, I'm going to take this plane and land it in New York, and then so and so says, oh, that's cool. I'll take it after you and put it somewhere else. Um, so that is how it's
Hmm.
working. And of course, again, the Discord, we got a BVI channel, BVI Virtual channel, and the WhatsApp group. I'm usually active. Johnny is a manager. Rob is a manager. So if you need any help with joining or booking a flight, any one of us can help you out with that.
Yeah, and then one last thing as a pilot, one, fly responsibly. And I'm just going to throw it out there now. We talked about it, so I'll just throw it out there. When you come in and fly, you get a plane, fly it. Don't get a plane and wait 18 hours and then do your flight, because then you got 2 or 3 other people that might want to do a flight, and they can't. They can't do anything until you complete your flight. So if you're going to fly it, we're not saying don't do it, but get the plane when you're ready to fly, not, well, I'll get it now and I'll do it sometime later tonight. Do the flight when you're ready. That way we can keep the planes moving, the cash flow moving, and the
Yeah.
more we can make, the quicker we can get more planes in.
Yeah, good point. As we expand the fleet, there's going to be more and more planes for you to choose from. So you will be able to kind of, if one's booked that you were looking at flying, you can go, let's look at the other 10 planes and see if there's another one we want to fly. But yeah, this is realistic. So as soon as you book a plane, you are assigned to that. You can't, no one else can come in and take it, which is not really great if you're planning on leaving it sat there for so many hours.
Yeah, and I mean the 320 is a really popular jet, so we're seeing that one being used, quite a bit, and that's fine. Hopefully we can maybe get another one at some point.
Yeah, pretty soon we're going to
You
get
know,
some more. We want to get some long haul
so
planes. So yeah,
yep, yep. So check it out, guys. It's a lot of fun.
absolutely. Now we had an email, I think it was a week or so ago, from Tyler Roddig, who many of you on the Discord will know of, and he was asking, and this is something that a lot of new pilots ask, what's the best way to land? They can get in the air and they can kind of land, but it usually ends up with a bit of a smash, or a complete breakup of the plane. So they want to know with Tramp at the moment what is the best way to land, and this is quite a complex question, I think, because it very much depends on the approach and the plane. So I'll give you a
Yeah,
brief overview. And I did a video on this on my channel, which I won't leave the link to just because this podcast isn't linked to me or anything like that. But if you want to check it out, you can. But the down low on it is the Airbus is a much better plane for a beginner than a Boeing, I think, because the Airbus will auto flare, whereas the Boeings do not auto flare. So the Airbus, let's say you're on an ILS approach in an A320, you are in luck because really all you need to do is turn fly plan off in Tramp. So obviously, let's say you've got the ILS, you've established, you're on your way down, and you're coming into land. You turn fly plan off in Tramp at about 500, and then really all you need to do is wait for the plane to touch down. Make sure you take the auto throttle out about 30 to 40 feet, idle the power. Some Airbuses do it automatically, some don't, so I just do it manually for safety. But the actual Airbus is going to bring the nose up for you, so you don't really need to worry about the touchdown. Um,
yeah. And
yeah,
I've noticed that too, Declan. Is there'd been other Airbuses that I've flown where it doesn't it doesn't do it like it's supposed to. And if it does that, guys, don't be like, oh well, these don't do it, because it could have just been a one of them moments where there could have been a number of different things that could have caused that to not do it. Maybe there was a lot of crosswind. I think if you get a lot of crosswind,
hmm
the Airbus can pick that up and say, wait a minute, we've got a lot of wind. It's already bringing the nose up. We're not going to need to,
yeah,
uh, do certain things, but don't just give up and, practice, man. Practice makes perfect. I'm definitely not a pro and I still practice.
yeah. And the caveat is, of course, you got to be stable. So I would say there's no real rule as to what you do with the speed, but I recommend taking control of the speed yourself and bringing it back with your flaps and gear helping you. So maybe if I was to give you a rule, I might say, okay, 4,000 be at 200 knots. 3,000 180 knots, 2,500 160 knots, 2,000 140 knots, and all the way through those speed reductions you're checking what your speed actually is, and you're bringing out more
Mm-hmm.
flap if you need it, and about 2,500 you're bringing your gear down. If you are coming through 1,000 feet and you're not stable, your speed is too high, or your plane is not stable on descent rate, it's nosediving, then you've probably not configured it in time. And that's something you just got to practice and get a feel for. Each plane is different, right? Some planes will slow down really fast. Some will not slow down at all. So You have to know your plane, and even if you just set up a plan in Tramp, if you go to the Find tab and search up an airport, you can add it to your flight plan and you can add it twice. And what I then do is add a departure runway, go to the bottom, add an arrival ILS approach. And so all you're doing is then you run this plan and you fly in a pattern. You take off, come back around, get the ILS, land. And if you just keep doing that until you get it perfect in your plane, that's a good way of doing it, I think, without doing a whole flight.
And you can you can also depending on how you want to do it on the sim, like if you're using P3D, I don't know, some do, some don't. And you can probably do it on the other one that you're using too, I would think, Declan. But you can also set it to where you start out in the air for practicing those approach landings. Now, I'm not fully sure on how you set that up, but I know that it's doable to where, it's just you set it as a default or whatever. And when you want to do it, just load it. Mm-hmm. And it starts you out, say, I don't know, like maybe 70 miles out or something like that. Just enough to where you can practice that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you could even do is, if there's an aircraft that you're struggling to land, you could get a flight in progress, set it up so that, say, you're coming in 5,000 feet. You can then go into the P3D or FSX menu and go to Save Flight and save the flight, call it, landing practice. And then every time you want to reload, you load that saved plan in. And as long as you've saved the plan in Tramp as well, you can redo that landing as many times as you would like until you think it's perfect. And one tip I would say to people is use the wing leveler to your advantage. That is Control V. That's a system that is designed to keep the wings level. So when flight plan comes out in Tramp, if you hit that, and the same on takeoff, if you hit that before you start the roll, it will keep the plane flying straight if you've got winds. So that's useful, so you don't just veer off as well.
And you could probably, I've even used it with landings too. As soon as I touch the runway, I would hit that. Absolutely, that way, the plane's not bouncing all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I've been doing that and using TFM's runway guidance, and before I'd have to use the stick a lot, and then you'd get a lot of this kind of side to side. But now when I do Control V, the plane literally will just stay straight. It's very rare that I have to make any input on the stick to help it.
Yeah, and you can do the whole, like you said earlier, set your create a flight plan where your departure is the same as your whatever airport. You can take off from Indianapolis, land in Indianapolis, or wherever LAX, whatever you want to do, but you just got to practice, guys, and you'll trust me, you'll get the hang of it.
Absolutely. Now, I should add that, of course, the Boeings and any other plane don't auto flare. So the way you do that, well, there's kind of two ways. One is if you have a stick or a yoke, you can pull back to flare. Again, that takes a lot of practice because you've got to get it right. If you pull back too much, your plane's going to balloon back up in the air. If you don't do it enough, you're going to smash. The way that you can do it if you don't have a stick or if you are still kind of learning is to go into the vertical speed box and type. So the procedure would be, flight plan comes out at 300, say, and you actually click the flight plan button for this. You don't want the whole autopilot out, you just take flight plan out. You go over to the vertical speed box and you type in, say, -100. And then just as you're coming up to 50 or so, you hit enter on that box, which sends that value to the autopilot and will raise the nose. That's a kind of a cheat way of doing it, and kind of making the aircraft flare if it's not got auto flare, and that will soften your landing out somewhat.
And I think another important thing to remember is do not treat one plane like another.
Absolutely.
If you're flying a 737, stick to those rules. Don't get in a 737 and treat it like an Airbus. You're going to be in for a lot of hurt. A lot of hurt. Don't treat a 777 like a 320. You'll be in for a lot of hurt. You got to learn these planes and kind of go with the one that you're going to fly the most. Be like, well, I like the 320. I like the 777. So then fly those.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
confuse yourself.
Yeah, they're all different. Some of them will love to float. Some of them you kind of get the idea, I don't need to flare this much. It's gonna float. It's fine. Some of them just want to smash, and you have to put the vertical speed in or flare even earlier than you would usually. It's really a matter of just trying it out and seeing what happens. And you're probably gonna
Yeah.
get some smashes in the beginning, but that's okay as long as you're not doing it with Bvi Virtual, then and you submit it. Yeah, it's okay. That's gonna happen.
Yeah, don't save it when you're getting like a negative 1,500 or something, because we're probably going to be returning that, because right now we're leasing all these planes,
Oh yeah, we don't
and
want that. Yeah, sorry, we can't return it. It was smashed up.
we'll be like, yeah, we're going to have your plane back to you tomorrow, but we're going to need a truck.
Yeah, it's in pieces.
Oh goodness.
Now I know kind of another issue with this is often when do I turn on M2 and when do I turn on approach mode? And there's a
Good
lot
one.
of
Yep.
different advice about this. And the thing that I found at work, if you're offline, it's not so much of a problem. But if you're on VATSIM and you go to M2 too early, you're going to have real issues with Tramp controlling the plane. So only go to M2 in approach mode when you get the glide slope. When TFM says glide slope alive, that's when you would do it, and not before. And if it doesn't say it, don't even bother. Just stay in M1.
Right. Right. Yeah, because the thing is, let's say that you normally if I'm not on VATSIM, I'll go to M2 at about 1,500 feet, or 15,000 rather. And you do it on VATSIM, you're setting yourself up for problems, because what happens when you get to 12,000 and the controller comes on and says, set your heading to whatever? Guess what? You've just went off of that whole idea of going to M2 and setting yourself up with approach. Wait until you get the approach, because center might throw you off. They might bring you on their own different heading to bring you into the approach or
Yeah.
whatever,
They might not see, it's pretty rare on VATSIM that they'll just say, yeah, follow the ILS approach, cleared for ILS. Normally they're going to vector you or turn you, away from traffic, etc. So there's always that to consider, and M2 is not your friend in that. Um, and so the only other thing I can say is, of course, if you're on an RNAV or a non-ILS approach, if for whatever reason your runway doesn't have an ILS, um, your landing is probably going to be a bit firmer and it's not going to be quite as accurate, because the glide slope very much helps guide you down. So the best thing to do is, again, take flight plan out at 300, immediately put wing leveler on. It'll keep you straight. You just have to hope that you will, continue drifting down to the runway. But just bear in mind that that's not going to be quite as accurate as the ILS.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So the next thing on the list is kind of related. Tramp 840. This came out about a week ago, and it's now downloadable on the site. The various changes for us, it's now been made usable with FS 2020, which we don't care about, but it has now got the DLLs included that I previously mentioned that the Tramp developer had given me to fix some of the bugs with the altitude setting and things like that. So if you want the latest version, I recommend going and grabbing it, because it's got all the latest changes. It also adds a pretty nice feature where a lot of people had issues that and this may still happen, we can't guarantee it, because to be honest, you know what Tramp's like, but apparently it will now not completely cut the autopilot off if you get either over the runway or to the end of your plan, I guess. The idea is that it should only cut fly plan off. It'll turn it off itself, but leave the autopilot on. So I believe
Mm-hmm.
the auto throttle goes off, so you'll need to turn that back on. But other than that, your autopilot will still be in command. So if you're on VADSIM and they give you headings, you may be able to be vectored back around to the start of the approach and have another go. Whereas previously the whole autopilot shut off, most likely a plane loses control and you end up with a crash or disconnecting. So that is a useful change. And generally, I just think there's a little bit less lag in the program. For us, there's a little bit more control on the aircraft with descent and stuff. So overall, it's just generally a little bit better than the previous version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice that now Tramp doesn't just shut off. Because there've been times when you get right to the airport and then you're looking and it's saying 0 miles, and
Yep.
that's because you passed it up, and then Tramp would shut off. Now at least you can turn back around and come back to it, or go to the waypoints and do fly from here or
Yeah.
whatnot, and generally it'll work. It'll bring you back around and do that approach again.
Oh yeah, because previous versions of Tram really, and I mean still it's not great, but it's better now. They did not like the circling approach. If you had an approach where you had to go past the airport and then turn back and come in, they really do not like that. But now at least you've got a chance to continue the flight and get in onto that runway with VATSIM, and it's nice to see that developers still taking feedback from me and other users and still trying to make it better. We all know that Tramp is, eventually going to be removed completely and superseded by TFM, but until
Mm-hmm.
that day, we just got to put up with it, and it's nice to see that it's a little bit better.
Yeah, most definitely. Because there are airports that will bring you past, they'll have you come out past them and come back around. Detroit likes to do that, and there's a couple others that like to do that as well. When center's on, they don't like you just coming straight in. They'll vector you out and back around.
Yeah.
But that's just because of visually the way it's laid out. So.
Yeah, I guess if you're on the far side runway, then they're probably going to bring you in and circle you to face the runway. So it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I think that's everything. There's nothing more here on the list. So yeah, not a lot has happened over the past 2 weeks. I mean, the focus, of course, is mainly on TFM development, but there's no rush on that. We want to make it the best that is possible, so we don't want to rush it. So all being well, there'll be a podcast in 2 weeks, unless something crops up that we feel we need to do one on earlier. And probably it'll be we'll get Andy and Jason or both of them, whatever, on the podcast again, and just check up on their progress, get a bit of the latest news on that, because I'm sure it will have gone even further in 2 weeks than it has.
Well, and the thing is that if any of you out there, if you know of, maybe there's a program that we've never saw or we've never used, or if there's something new that you know about and you feel like it's worth bringing to us, let us know and we'll check it out. First thing is we check it out. We make sure, okay, is this worth even putting on the table? You can always email us and say, hey, check this out, or hey, I'd like to show you something, and we'll talk to you about it. Could we do involve you? It's about bringing information to you. So if you got something, let us know. Otherwise, if you don't tell us, we're not going to know, and we're not going to know. So
yeah, absolutely. We want these new add-ons. We try and keep across all the flight sim news, but there's always things that pass under the radar. So if you notice something or you got a product that you've used and you enjoyed that we might not know about, let us know. As usual, bvipilotspodcast@gmail.com. And I forget if we said this on the last show, but we have absolutely made sure now that the podcast is on iTunes. It is. That was a week or so ago. We managed to fix that.
iHeartRadio. We just went to
iHeart's been added,
iHeartRadio. Yep.
Yeah. So we're
I
continuing
confirmed that too. We're on there. We are on iHeartRadio now, so that's really it's really cool that we're getting on these different platforms. Spotify, I believe we're on Spotify as well.
We are, yeah.
So yeah,
So yeah, you can get us on all those.
we're getting
Follow
out
us on
there. Yeah.
You can even ask Alexa, or I shouldn't have said that, but the smart speakers, either that or Google, to all your speakers are going to have activated if we're on phones or whatever. But yeah, you can ask that to play it, and it will pull us up on some platform.
Yeah, how's that go? Ask what? Ask who?
Yeah, that thing, that Amazon thing. Yeah. You can't say the word because everyone's damn thing goes off. They're all going to say, "What? Sorry, I didn't understand the question." Yeah.
We're going to be the College of Alexa overload.
Yeah, right. Yesterday, Alexa closed down due to so many requests. Yeah, if only our community was that
Due to
large.
these blind simmers, hon.
Yeah, who the hell are they? What are they doing? Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, check it out, guys. We're in too many places to not be found. So
yeah, right. You can't not find us at the moment. We've got too many platforms. So I hope you've enjoyed this week, and we will be back, as I say, probably in 2 weeks' time with some more news, and we will see you then.
see you guys later.